Small professional services businesses are working harder than ever. They need capacity, capability, and high trust partners they can rely on. So we polled experts and gathered insights from leaders across our network and put together the Small Business Success Stack. It's a series of tips from four different types of partners that every small business benefits from. So pleased to speak with our guest today. I met him a few years ago when I was a mentor coach to senior leaders at United Health, always on camera and offering incredible insights. Over 2 years, I suspected that his United Health Group clients were really getting something special. While he's a certified executive coach with decades of Fortune 500 leadership experience with brands like United Health, Target, and Emerson Electric, I grew to know him as a masterfully regulated, resilient, and connecting spirit, and a talented musician too. Like, I didn't know that initially, but I learned that. He earned cool points as his path to coaching is very similar to mine, from mastering hard skills like engineering to project management to this people transformation work. I'm so happy today to speak with Andy Nelson. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Farnia. Wow, what an amazingly kind introduction. Thank you so much for that. Now I feel like I want to create a podcast where I can give such a delightful intro and return the favor to you. But for now, I will accept it and say thank you.
It's been such a treat getting to know you, and I'd love for my audience to know you as well. What
Mm,
are some of the defining chapters of your personal and professional leadership journey?
yeah. Defining chapters. I I guess I feel like there's this rule of three, when you present publicly. So I think I'll attempt to do that live in front of you here. If I were to imagine, like, the first part of my career was very much focused on that technical sort of skill set that you talked about. It
Mhm.
was technology nerd. My first job was at Radio Shack. So here I
Mhm.
am selling stereos and then I'm writing code. And then I moved more into project management sort of stuff, leveraging that technical skill set. And then I
Mhm.
realized, boy, I really want to move into this team leadership sort of thing. So moving from project management to team management and leadership at some of the
Mhm.
companies that you mentioned. And the more I did that, the more I realized, okay, I still appreciate technology, but I love people more. And I
Yeah.
realized that that is a phrase that even sounds hackneyed, but I truly believe it. I truly feel it. And as you say, after working at Target, United Health Group, a few other places, this business of doing this craft of doing coaching, leadership development, some public speaking, that's what I really felt as my deepest calling, if you will, that I finally was ready to do full time. And so a couple of years ago, now that's what I get to lean into all day long, which I'm just so delighted to do, the coaching, the leadership development, the speaking.
Yeah, it's crazy because I can remember being in undergrad studying engineering, and I was halfway done. And I said to myself, I don't think that I'm going to work as an engineer day to day. There was something in my gut that was talking to me,
Mm,
and I didn't honor it, of course, because I'm getting rational thinking. I didn't honor that thing until many years later, but it was talking to me. There's something there that was talking to me.
yeah.
Anyway.
I love that you said that, Farnia, actually, because as am now working also on writing my book,
Mhm.
my first book, it's that's coming up for me is like these, I don't know, how would I put it? These rhythms or these knocks that keep coming on the door. If I am honest with thinking of my background, even back being the technology nerd and soldering things in my bedroom or whatever I was doing, like, I knew that I wasn't going to be doing that forever, even though that felt fun.
Mhm.
But I can remember very, very young having this thing of like, there's things we can do with things, and then there's things we
Mhm.
can do with people.
Mhm.
And I just felt that really deep in my sense of values and calling that, yeah, it's going to be people, like this whisper, like, yeah, Andy, sooner or later it's going to be more people. But do you
Mhm.
go ahead and do this other stuff in the meantime, you know? And
The
then now
people will
what? 50
call you
some.
back.
That's right. We'll be here when you're ready, some 50 years later, apparently. Yeah.
I can recall with that UHG mentor coaching, you once joined the call from a different location,
Mm.
and actually, I don't. That might not have been the UHG. You joined the call, but we were catching up one time, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to freshen my memory. We were catching up, and you joined the call from a different location, and you actually shared that you were on your way to a treatment, and that treatment was for cancer.
Mhm.
And I was shocked and really wondered if whatever I had to say next was actually important in that moment. And
Mm.
a- what I came to learn was it wasn't your first foray into cancer, and I just wonder, like as you're talking about like your journey from technology to people, um, w- what was that skill set that you developed that allowed you to be with people?
It's such a delicious question. And I want to honor too, thank you for your sensitivity in those moments, that moment of, hmm, whoa, like I didn't realize Andy was going through cancer treatment at that moment.
Mhm. So a lot of times, I think about when I was again in the tech world, like there's a lot of rational thinking that happens there.
Mm.
And rational thinking, there's always an answer. Like there's expectation of a response. There's an expect, and sometimes emotion or even presence with a moment
Mhm.
it doesn't feel as important because
Mm.
there's the rational thinking. So it's a very different kind of thinking when you're
Mm.
prioritizing people. And I wonder, when on your journey going from technical and feeling that pull into people, that you were able to just pull into people and be there with people because that's how you hold your clients.
Mm. Yeah, it's really good. You're really onto something that I don't think anybody's ever asked me before, to be honest. So I'm so glad we get a chance to talk about it today. Um, Maybe it's thanks to part of our shared background, but you're right. It is a very different skill set, yet it's all just me. So sometimes I don't notice it,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I bet you get that, that um, I'll give this little quick example, then I promise I want to dig deeper in answering your question. Um, when I was at Target still, I had, my primary job was doing technology leadership stuff, getting stuff
Hmm.
done with teams, contractors, whatnot. And then on the side, I was doing about 5% of my time of doing executive coaching, and which I also did at United. And I can remember finding out later after I had coached somebody at Target, but I hadn't made the connection with their last names, that I had actually coached the wife of somebody who was a contractor for me earlier. And so he reached back to me later and said, whoa, I just realized you did that. And what a different skill set you used when you did that. And part of me is like, I was grateful, but I was also like, really? It's just me. Like, like I'm just showing up the way I show up. But it hit me that further to your point, it is a very different skill set. And what a blessing, frankly, to have multiple skills in our lives that we can build and practice. And how do I do it? What gives me the wherewithal? Two things is what I'd say. One is I do sense, um, and I learned this in coaching from, I think, one of our, I think we both know Dr. Okukan Udo, right? We both know him. And he said to me, because I hired him to be my personal coach through the program, I met him and I'm like, okay, I want what he's having. Would you please be my coach? And he's that kind of guy. And after he coached with me for a while, he just said, okay, time out. You've always been a coach, haven't you? And I'm like,
Yeah.
huh, I guess so, but
You've
like,
always been a coach.
yeah,
Step into your
right.
calling.
Step
Yeah.
into the calling. So it's kind of back to that, 6-year-old soldering wires, but I think I'm doing something, going to do something else eventually. So there is that. But then the other part I'll give you is, frankly, getting cancer almost 9 years ago now did open me up to a
Hmm.
sense of, hey, I've been knocking on the door for a while, God, universe, powers, callings, And life is short, just a reminder. So get your priorities straight, focus on your primary work, the work that only you can do, let this other stuff go. And in a sense, my last 8.5 years has been a doubling down on those callings and a refocusing on this work that I do feel called to do and letting the rest of that stuff go.
Nice. Like that just hearing you say that like brought me chills. Like
Mm.
refocus on what you're here to do and silence the noise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I so it's clear you're a great coach. You
Thank
serve
you. Thank you.
leaders, many of which are
Mhm.
like those in my audience. They manage complexity, they manage pressure, they manage ambiguity. What patterns do you notice about the ones who thrive?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is resilience.
Mm,
Frankly, no surprise, but um, and it's a word that's used a lot these days, so I think it's almost lost maybe some of its power. Um,
yeah, like
but what it,
everyone's resilient. Everything's
yeah,
resilient. It was the word of
right.
2024. I think that was the word.
So true, right? But there is something to it. So choose a synonym if we want to, whatever it is, getting through tough times and still being able to perform. The phrase comes to mind, a professional is somebody who gets work done even on a day when they don't feel like it. I do notice that in the leaders that I coach and work with is that they have this bounce back. And part of that I think is compartmentalization, being able to say, right now I got to be present in this meeting to do this, right? And then maybe I need to deal with something that's going on with the family, or maybe I need to coach this human being and really deeply listen, bring out my inner coach as a leader to just be there and listen, less doing, more being. So compartmentalization is part of it with that resilience. I think the other thing I'd say is I would say balance a sense of achievement with a sense of purpose. Um, really being able to do a little bit of what we've already talked about here today, Farnia, of um, yeah, I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna execute the heck out of this thing. We're gonna get this done. We're gonna deliver this. You and I are both PMPs, so we know how to get stuff done, right? Um, and while I do that, or while I delegate, while I work with my team to get stuff done, I'm gonna have a sense of why are we doing this anyway?
Hmm.
And in addition to executing and finishing this project, what else is important for us, for
Hmm.
me, for us as a team, so
Hmm.
that I think that can be profoundly inspiring to the team.
Hmm.
When they have the why behind what they're doing and they have a sense, frankly, even if it's not 100% clear, why are we doing
Hmm.
this? Well, it's a thing
Hmm.
we need to do, but
Hmm.
I got you. You know, please let's get through this, this week or whatever it is, and then let's have a team celebration about what we did, and let's talk a little bit more about the strategies that are coming next. So this sense of like, we talk about in the coaching process, like managing the coaching process, but
Yeah.
managing the why, if you will, and helping people tie the why to the what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Hmm. So what I'm hearing you say is really like holding the vision and holding the goal
Mm,
um publicly, right? Like everyone
yeah,
is on the same page. We're all
right
working
on.
towards the same thing, which can be so powerful. I
Mhm.
hear you saying that. Like, tell me about a time because you manage global teams. Like, how were you able to do that? When yeah, take
Mm,
me to a time because I know you managed it. Was a team in
mhm.
India and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, how did you do that when you were in those?
Yeah, yeah. Boy, I love talking about this stuff. Haven't thought about some of this in a while. I mean, what I was able to do then when I was at my best and when the team was at their best is we did, despite the miles and the virtual
Hmm.
connections and that sort of thing, for one thing, we were able to honor each other's humanity as we were
Okay.
going through this. You know, one of the things I remember discovering years ago was if I could have a one-on-one meeting with somebody before we had to like get stuff done with the project, everything just went better. And I guess,
Mhm.
yeah, if I'm honest, I think I was bringing some of my skill set to that of the presence and listening, but they were too. And one of the folks I noticed, of course, broad generalization, but with a lot of the folks I work with in India, they really value the relationship parts of that. And so when I
Mhm.
was, Ideally, I did travel to India, so able to make that personal connection with folks over there. I was, you know, blown away that they were just so welcoming and like, oh, Andy, you're here. And like I arrived, and the second day they're like, oh, I have a birthday party on Saturday tomorrow for my 2-year-old. Would you please come over to our house? And like, are
Oh,
you?
that's
Oh my
great.
goodness, really? Like just so welcoming. Like you are here personally, and it's just a gift to us. Would you please be with us in our
Mhm.
lives? Like wow, that's amazing. So for me, frankly, when we've done some of those assessment tests of like, global presence and who are you, and it's like, oh, Andy gets along with people in India. Like, yeah, I do, of course, and you get along with me. Like, that's why we love working with each other. So this global team sort of thing, leveraging ideally when you can have a one-on-one in-person connection,
Mhm.
then I just found everything else goes better after that because you've built at least a little bit of that foundation of trust, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
If it can't be in person, then it can be virtual, it can be via phone, like whatever you can, I think to build that. I guess what I'm kind of talking about is kind of um, a relationship ladder or foundation for the
Yeah.
pyramid of the work you're going to do together.
See, as you're talking about that, and I totally didn't think that this is where we'd go, but I think about the big return to work, like how people are really
Mm,
struggling that they have to come into the office, and many companies have gone back in that direction
yeah.
pre-COVID times. And the discussion has always been like, how do you make sure that people are working or that there's trust, and that, or how can you trust your people? And as I hear
Mm,
you talking, and I've experienced this also, when you have a global team, you don't have the luxury of everyone being in the same physical space already. But what I hear you saying is if you establish that foundation of trust, then everything else kind of just flows from there.
yes.
What would you say to like these leaders who are making decisions and want to kind of have the stamp of approval that badge swiping is okay? Like that's the
Mm,
way to get high productivity in their what would you say to them?
yes. I would say to them, hey, in-person connection is a thing, and it's wonderful and it's amazing. Absolutely lean into that when you can.
Hmm.
Period. Full stop. And um, in today's connected society,
Hmm.
um, technology is a thing too, and you can build amazingly powerful human connections without meeting in person too. So I guess I'm encouraging to hold the two truths, the
Hmm.
both and there, um, and frankly, to be more direct, like a stop is, don't dig in your heels about one way or another would be my encouragement, but rather think about the why that we talked
Yeah,
about. Why
yeah,
are we doing this anyways? We're doing it to build trust so that we can deliver
yeah,
together and stay aligned together. Great. What are the different ways we can build trust? What's another possibility? Let's pull ourselves back literally and talk about the different ways we can build trust. Can we do it in person? Great. Wonderful. Let's do some of that. Can we not with this person or this team? Oh, we can't right now. Okay, great. How else can we build trust there? So just to hold it lightly, stay creative, building trust as the focus so that you can deliver. Um, that's would be what I would say.
yeah. And I love that. Again, building the trust is
Mhm,
first. Like
mhm,
I see so many times clients are looking to, oh, well, this is what I'm experiencing. This is the kind of pushback. These are the kinds of challenges. And the question always comes back to, is the trust there, or where is the
yes,
trust?
yes,
And how to invest the effort and energy into the trust. That's really,
100%.
really powerful.
So
Yeah.
agreed. Yeah.
I often do this exercise with clients, and we get to look back and then plan forward. And at the end, I usually ask them, like, hey, are you playing big or are you playing small?
Mm,
Playing to their past limitations and their past circumstances.
mm,
I wonder, what's your personal litmus test for knowing when someone's playing small? Your personal, actually professional litmus test, because this is likely something your clients deal with as well.
mm. How do I know or how do I sense? What's my spidey sense when they're playing small?
Yeah, what's the spidey sense?
That's the spidey sense. Ooh, that's a good one too. You've got all these $12 delicious questions, Farnia. Well, here's one that comes to mind. Is if I'll ask them something that's, simple yet deep, like, well, what do you really want next? Or and they're like, I don't know. Like even just feeling that hesitation sometimes, I'll just stay with that. Like, well, what if you did know?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's something you don't want?
Mm-hmm.
What are you even more sure you don't want now?
Mm-hmm.
Just like let's just, as a former leader of my Atari used to say, let's admire the problem a little bit more. Like let's stick with this because there's
Mm-hmm.
something here. So almost like sensing a little hesitation, um, where of course we don't put our own clients, you know, our own judgment on our clients per
Yeah.
se, but yet when we've got a curiosity about that, um, yeah. And honestly, I would say this too. There's something about when somebody can um, mention something, maybe we've been coaching for 2 or 3 sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll mention something they've never mentioned before, but maybe the pitch of their voice will change,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll talk about a time when they were a 6-year-old and whatever, cables they were soldering or whatever, or something, like, oh, whoa. And I'll just kind of do depending on what I sense the client's needs, sometimes I'll literally do a wait, time out. What were you doing as a
Yeah.
six
What were
year
you?
old? Let
Is that legal?
I didn't write. Yeah, exactly. Did people do that in New Jersey? I didn't know, whatever, but either honor that, or if I sense there's more delicacy, they're like, oh, say more, like, ooh, let's lean into that energy. Like, so if there's something unusual or the first time it came up and I sense an energy shift,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll want to get curious about that. Um, because my suspicion, sometimes the story I might make up is, now we're getting somewhere because I felt the energy shift and you haven't talked about it in 3 or 4 sessions. Maybe we've been a little bit more, and it's on me too, of course, as a coach. Maybe we've been more transactional. I'm going to accomplish these skills and build these things, which is all wonderful, great stuff that we can help our clients do. And when there's some new energy or some new depth or something we haven't talked about before, that's when I might get sense, maybe I'm playing a little small here. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
something you haven't brought up yet, but now that you have, I'm going to get curious. I'm going to see if you're curious with me.
Oh, yeah, I love that. You mentioned energy, and that's a big deal
Mm.
because so many times, and you could tell, like I oftentimes I stand up when I want to be engaged because there's something different that happened. What do you do, or what do you advise your clients to do when their energy dips?
Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is thinking about, whether it's from the Enneagram framework or elsewhere, thinking about, mind, heart, body,
Hmm.
and how might we leverage any of the energies or sensitivities there, to kind of give
Hmm.
ourselves a lilt. Um, I'm thinking right now it's beautiful in Minnesota now in early July. So to be able to say, okay, uh, energy dipping, when was the last time you went outside? Or are
Hmm.
you having a day where every single hour your Apple Watch needs to remind you to stand up, at 10 minutes before the hour is done? Like, you might be low energy if, you haven't been outside all day, or
You
you
didn't
haven't
drink
taken,
water
you
today.
did that right? Exactly, right? Didn't drink water, or, um, yeah. So to get curious, if it's someone that maybe is more cerebral forward, asking them a question like, okay, well, what would make your heart sing? Or
Mm,
what would just give you so much joy tonight? So kind of like shifting a little energy there, to encourage taking a look at a different perspective or take some action with their body. That's one. I'll pause in there. I think that's the
yeah,
first
yeah,
encouragement I'd probably stick with.
yeah. And just as you said, like just asking the question there, something happens when you ask the question because they may not have even been aware of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Like the lack of awareness that energy has shifted at all.
Mm.
And the drinking the water, the taking the walk, like doing those things, they make a difference. And I wonder what practices or mindsets or rituals might have helped you along the way. Like, what are those things that
Mm.
you practice?
You know, I'll mention this because I think it's important to my story and what I'll mention here next. It was about 8.5 years ago when I was first
Mhm.
diagnosed with stage 4 cancer.
Okay.
And that, as you can imagine, hit me and my family like a brick. You still had kids in middle school at the time.
Mhm.
And it was just so much a life-changing, energy shifting experience for us with all that we had planned and all, my work and our lives seemed to be going, quote, well, yet what? My life might be over soon. What what now?
Mhm.
And out of all, sometimes when I presented publicly on this to like agile communities, like we talk about the Kanban or the board where you've got all these things to do, the work, the things to do, the work in
Yep.
process, the finished, right? Where you got that? Okay, how are we doing? Lots of work in process, got to eliminate that. And I'm like, at that moment of that diagnosis, everything else is ripped off the board. I had one card, stay alive. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's the
Wow.
only thing to do.
Yep.
I just need to stay alive.
Yep.
And honestly, since that time, Farnia, the having that in my mind that, well, wait a minute, I am alive.
Yeah.
So if I'm alive, I have everything I need. I
Mhm.
have energy, I have agency, I get to have a conversation with my dear friend Farnia today. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like, it's a dream come true. I'm still
Yeah.
here. And so I, I feel I may not be answering your question yet, but I wanted to set that as a foundation because that has changed my perspective immeasurably and in a way that'll never be the same.
That's everything. Like to have such clarity. I can remember when I was at Morgan Stanley, I had to have surgery, and it took me out of the office for months. I
Mm,
was so grateful to have an employer that I could actually be out of the office for months, but I didn't like to feel or be seen as sick. So that was like
mm,
it felt terrible for me. And the day after my surgery, I actually got fully dressed and repositioned myself into a reclining chair in the hospital. And I had the laptop on my lap. And I wasn't even supposed to have a laptop, right?
what?
And my care team, it was crazy. It was crazy. My care team, they came in the room and they asked, "Where's Farnia?" And I was like, "I'm from."
Seriously?
Yes, yes. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And what I know is that the audience, this audience may likely be filled with leaders that also have that lack of clarity. So hearing you talk about being able to prioritize, my job here is I'm living. That's my choice. That's what I'm in. That's what I'm doing. To be that clear and not get stuck in the mud. Like I
Mm,
had a laptop in the hospital. I had a hotspot on my phone and I was tethering. I
wow.
already had the time off. Why didn't I just leave the laptop out of the hospital? Like it's so
Wow.
ridiculous.
Yes.
But putting my health in the back seat because I felt like the mission in the moment was so much bigger and it
Yeah.
just wasn't. Like it was
Mm,
important, but living is even more important. And where my faltering health at the time, it felt like, oh, now I let people down, so I can't let everybody down, so they don't need to know that I'm down. um what can you share about surviving more than one time, Andy? Like I'm so privileged to
mm,
talk to you. Like you
mm,
you are the epitome of resilience, and I can. So what can you share about surviving the big C more than one time
mhm.
and how it
Yeah.
shaped your perspective or your coaching philosophy?
It has been multiple times, and it's how it's shaped me is um, there is, as that gratitude literally of every day that I get to be alive. Um, being able to just celebrate a day
Mm.
seriously. And I realize just as I say that, just how hackneyed that sounds like, yeah, 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 too bad for you, old man. You've been through cancer, but whatever, like some listeners might be like, but I'm young, I'm fine, like I don't think this applies to me at all. And what I would say is, um, it may not right now, but sooner or later, I mean, mortality, it's the law, like
Mhm, mhm,
it's
mhm,
sooner or later. And the gift to me truly was of getting diagnosed in my 40s in the prime of
mhm,
life, it felt, is that it gave me a wake up call of that perspective so
mhm.
that even though part of me, I mean, I really resonate with your story because you know me, here I am, dialing into meetings and then going to after radiation therapy, like I'm the energizer bunny, let's get stuff done, right? Um, and I bet a lot of your listeners are too, being able to, you know, get to be a senior leader in an organization. You got to be able to plan stuff out, have strategic chops, get stuff done, lead teams, all that good stuff, right? and it helps us get where we are and where we sense we
Mhm.
want to.
Mhm.
And what I'd say is listening to those listening to those deeper callings and or working with someone, um, maybe it's a trusted partner, maybe it is a coach, maybe it's a mentor, listening to what they reflect back to you
Mhm.
about what they notice you doing and the difference you make and the stuff that you're really where you're truly something deeper is going on. We all have a
Mhm.
million skills, but beyond skills is something that feels like more like an essence, of who you really are. So I would say listen to those things because as as Steve Jobs says, you'll only connect the dots backwards. As I connect the dots backwards in where I've ended up, it's like, oh yeah, I have. Okukan's right. I've always been a coach. I always wanted to lean more into people. I always wanted to do these things. Um, I remember a direct report probably 20 years ago at Target. Frankly, we didn't connect about a lot of stuff. I think we probably both considered each other pretty high maintenance, frankly, as a boss, as a person, just did CII. But as we were having a conversation in City Center for the Target headquarters about coaching, she paused and she just said, this, this is what you're great at, this coaching
Mhm.
stuff. She said, you
Mhm.
can lead teams, you can get stuff done, but this is what you're great at. And
Mhm.
I am so grateful for the gift of that conversation and what she said to me because it stuck with me.
Mhm.
She was right. I didn't see it as clearly as she did. And it those those moments as I rewind them, and I bet as any of your listeners might rewind the moments that they
Yeah.
can think of where somebody said, "Oh, do you realize how amazing you are at this? That not everybody can do that?" That's the
Mhm.
stuff. That's probably a really great hint about the work that only you can do in your
Mhm.
way. And listening to those rhythms, those who knows, those could be your callings. Those could be the deepest essence of perhaps why you're on earth, in addition to executing all the stuff and getting all the stuff done. And if you want to, God bless you, do that, get in the hospital and, join meetings and whatever, or go to radiation therapy
The
and then
hot
come home
spot.
and join meetings, right? Do the hotspot, do those things, right? And for me these days, if I'm going to do that, to know why I'm doing it and who I'm doing it for, um, that helps me stay connected to, that's
Yeah.
my why. That's why I'm going to do it, or that's why I'm going to choose not to.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that clarity is priceless.
Mhm.
And what I hear you saying is just paying attention to what the signs are around you that are kind of telling you who you are. If you're unclear, or if you're walking but not necessarily by purpose, but simply because of circumstance,
Mm,
which is, when I think back, hindsight, it's 2020, and that's likely what was going on for me, like walking because that was the charge, right? Like, again,
mm,
I'm first generation, so you move forward because you can move forward, not necessarily because that's your choice
mm,
to move forward in that direction. So
mm.
what I'm hearing from you is like actually honor your impact in whatever space is. And even someone who doesn't get along with you, that's the story you're sharing, is saying, this is what you're really
Yes.
good at. Like, I think this is what you're supposed to be doing. So just
Yes.
honoring that.
Oh,
Um,
you said it better than I did, and more succinctly, the honoring that and listening and paying attention to those signs around you. Yes, that's perfectly put. That's exactly what I meant.
so I wonder what's the legacy that you hope that your client, your team, your loved ones remember about the ways that you show up?
Mm. Wow, that's a big one. Such a big one. And it's interesting because I'm at once both feeling like I've had 8.5 years to think about my legacy more than maybe I wanted to. And yet at the same moment, it's kind of hard to answer because um, I feel this excitement of being alive, like, oh, well, it's this, but yet I still want it to be this, and I want to do this thing, and so on. Um, yeah, I, I I'll start out by answering it this way. I am working on a book.
Yeah, the book.
Um,
Tell us about the book.
right. And that just feels like such a fun part of my legacy, frankly, is that
Yeah.
being able to tell my story, it's been several years now, obviously going through cancer, and frankly, again, listening to the signs from earlier, like I'd always wanted to do some writing,
Mhm.
and kind of felt like, but yeah, but I don't know, what am I going to write about? And I kind of feel like, God in the universe said, well, boom, how about the cancer thing? Like, you can write about that. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah. Um, and so that is what the story's by. My book is called Survivor's Gratitude, The Gifts of
Survivor's
Cancer.
gratitude. Okay.
Yes, survivor's gratitude. Because I felt survivor's guilt. I think many of us cancer survivors do, but it really is on my best days, I can turn it into gratitude,
Mm,
survivor's gratitude, the gifts of cancer, clarity, and connection. And so I'm hopeful I can share my story through my book and through the other work that I do, and that it can inspire other people to lean into their own sense of that clarity, staying connected to others, and truly what their callings are, and keep that in mind as I feel this gift has helped me keep that in mind for myself.
wow. Like that is legacy. I don't think I've ever seen the
Mm,
gift of cancer written in that, even written, period, the
mm,
gift of cancer, but that you have the insight and even um, appreciation for the circumstances
mm.
and the and you're able to share that with many others who may not be able to or be unwilling or scared to talk
Yeah,
about it is really, really a gift, Andy.
yeah. Thank you, Farnia. Yeah, I really honestly feel that. And as my uh, amazing, therapist reminds me, she said, "You are a really positive person, Nancy. That's great. And there are times you might just need to say this sucks and to like say this to right." And so I decided to change the header title. The book was originally called just The Gifts of Cancer, period.
Mhm. Oh.
Um, and I decided, it is more than that too. And so the
Mhm.
survivor's gratitude, I kind of like to play on that. And I did get gifts through cancer. But I also speak to, and I think it's important. I will say this: I think it's important for all of us, even though I am aware now that the my positive nature just tends to come out.
Mm,
Um, I think it's important for all of us, maybe especially the positive folks among us,
mhm,
the maybe the folks like you and I who tend to keep
mhm.
going no matter what,
Yeah,
to call it directly when it's not so great,
yeah,
and to
yeah,
be honest with ourselves about that and our bodies and all
yeah.
that stuff. Um, and to just be sometimes and not do. Maybe that's the other thing I would just put into our space today is
Mhm.
we've talked a lot about doing and what do we do and how do we do. We've hinted at and we've danced around this being, but um, since we are human beings and not human doings, I think that's worth a mention too.
Yeah, be not do. Years ago, I think it was 2021. I challenged myself. It was like a quest. I
Mm,
challenged myself to be with instead of doing. It's like I couldn't go to any party. I couldn't go to anywhere without doing something. Like, oh, what needs to be done? Like,
really?
I'll be at the door. Yeah, like always feel like I had to do. And
Yeah.
I challenged myself. It had to be like 18 months. And in that 18 months, I learned so much about myself. So much.
Really?
Oh my God. Turning off the doing was so hard. So
Wow.
hard. So hard.
Huge
So,
props for you to have gone put yourself through that personal boot camp for
oh
18
my
months, Barney.
gosh.
That's impressive.
Look, yeah, it was very telling, but I appreciate your saying that is we're not human doings, we are human beings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and you mentioned this a moment ago, just how you're very positive. And I think that's what I love about you is
Mm,
I am too. So, it's
mm,
not the cup is always half full. Like, what are we can see? What can we get from this? Or how can we
right.
evaluate this in a different way? What contribution do you think mindset has in high performing leaders achieving outcomes?
Mm. What does mindset contribute? Yeah. I think it's tremendous. I
Mm,
think it is huge. Um, not to say, to cover that base quickly, not to say that having a so-called, negative mindset or a bad mindset doesn't mean you can't achieve things.
mhm,
That's certainly not true, of course. Yet I do think, what comes to mind is, of course, the growth mindset, Carol Dweck's work. Um,
mhm,
I think having a growth mindset, having a genuinely and generally positive mindset, I think does make a difference. Um, and the other thing that comes to mind is, assuming positive intent of people around you
mhm, mhm,
and our teams. Um, I learned this at Target and it stuck with me. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to do a really bad job at work. That's my goal. Like nobody's trying to, you know?
Today I'm gonna break it all.
Yeah, that's right. Bring in the flamethrower. So, nobody does that. And so even and especially when, our values feel attacked or somebody's not showing up, we tend to judge others by their ability to execute our values,
Mhm, mhm,
and when they're not, we've probably all had the experience. I know I have is where I'm like, pick something that I tend to be strong in collaboration, and I
mhm,
work with somebody at some organization and they can't seem to collaborate. I'm like, how are you still employed? Like, what is wrong with you for crying out loud? Are you kidding me? Like, fire them now. And then to realize, and with some tenderness to myself, like, yeah, and people are probably doing that for me too, for whatever
mhm.
I'm weak in or whatever values they have that I'm not fulfilling. So to pull back from all that muck and say, assume positive intent. We're all trying to get a good job done. I think that helps, especially thinking about leadership roles
Mhm.
and with direct reports and folks, listening might have multiple layers, where they're leading leaders and they're growing new leaders of leaders and all that, you know, boy, the power you have of being able to have your goodness as a leader, your mindset
Mhm.
trickle down, you
Yeah.
know? Oh, just imagine that. I'm just imagining, the honey dripping down, man. Like
Yeah.
there's goodness there of all that you can do to not only show up for yourself, and that inner work is so important as we know, inner work preceding that outer work. If you're able to do that yourself, assume positive intent in your team and have a mindset of, you know what? This sucks, and let's pause there for a minute. This freaking sucks. This
Yeah.
moment. We didn't expect this, whatever it is, market downturn, competitor come out of the blue, uh, data breach, whatever. Like we've seen them all, right, through our careers, right? We did not expect that. Let that land. And I'll say
Mhm.
this specific to us positive folks, right? Something I've had to learn is this freaking sucks. And let's just sit with that for a minute, for a New York
Yep.
minute.
Yep.
Pause, full stop, so that before I want to say, yeah, but that's okay. We're just gonna, no, let it land, right? And then use the power of your awareness and the mindset to say, and so I'm going to keep telling you the truth while we get through this. It does suck right now.
Mhm.
I want to get your input now in a minute as well, but here are my thoughts as we get started out about how we're going to attack this. Then start setting the strategy, the vision, and then I think those other things you mentioned about the mindset and the positive, having a positive attitude, but more than that, assuming positive intent with the people on your team so that you can
Mhm.
coach them, you can keep motivating them, working with
Sure.
them. That's what I think builds, can build a really healthy team. One of the, I hesitate to share this, but I'll share it anyways, because I think it's helpful. Um, Back to that point of like somebody reflecting for you something that you may not have noticed yourself. The
Yeah.
best leader I ever had, Meredith Jordan at Target Corporation, she said to me when she could sense the seeds of my coaching as well, but she also saw what I was doing in leading teams. She said, you're really good at building healthy teams.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, thank you. And I think part of me at the time was like, oh, yeah, but I have a great team. But now I've learned to just accept that and
Accept it.
say, yeah, I am. I'm damn good at building healthy teams. So why
Yeah.
is that, right? And getting able to talk about that a little bit in podcasts like yours has been such a gift. So I thank you for that. But I do think it's a lot of these things that we've mentioned today, Farnia, of building those healthy teams. It's honoring the individuals, building
Yep.
the trust,
Yep.
and then doing those other things about the mindset to then, great, we've got a team of individuals, this ragtag bunch of very, wild and crazy folks with all their values and skills, and we're bringing them forward with the mindset that helps them thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. So much about, I mean, all of that. Okay. All of that, Andy. I particularly love you saying the get curious, basically, get curious. Don't assume what the intention is. Don't make assumptions. If we
Yes,
go to the emergency room, just because we're talking about that kind of stuff a moment ago, if we go to the emergency room, we wouldn't we expect whoever comes to support us to ask questions or do an assessment or to really understand what's going on.
yes,
Yet in these interpersonal conflicts or challenges that folks have, the questions rarely come first.
Mm,
So just getting curious and trying to do that diagnostic doesn't usually happen. So very
yes.
powerful.
That's a great point. Being able to diagnose and ask those questions in the moment, super
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. So I wonder, what events or other, I know you mentioned the book, right?
Yeah,
We're all
yeah,
looking for that book. When
yeah.
can we get that book, or what other events are coming
Yes.
up for you?
Yes, thank you so much. So what I would say, so the book, I am planning on finishing them up this draft this year. It's my second draft. I'm working with
Mhm.
an editor. She's amazing. The book's going to be released next year. So
Okay.
date TBD.
2026.
Yep, 2026 coming out. Yep, we're doing this. And the best way for people to stay in touch with me or send me a note if they want to, pre-order. I don't have the pre-order all set up, but they can just send me a note. Just go to nelsonexecutivecoaching.com
Mm-hmm.
and there's a contact me spot there. You can just send me a message on that. You'll be among the first to know when the book is released or when I might be doing, book tour signing, that sort of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or stay in touch with me with other things. The other things I have coming up, they tend to be a variety of speaking engagements. But I'm also available for, I'll mention this. Um, One of the things I've really enjoyed doing, especially since becoming independent a couple of years ago, is I'm happy to be hired one-on-one by leaders, even whether it's through an organization or a self-pay sort of scenario. Because what I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed is that sometimes folks in transition, or if they've had a challenge, maybe it's a health challenge, maybe they're just not sure what to do next.
Yeah.
They may be hesitant to, work with their corporation to try
Yeah.
and fund that. But I
Yeah.
just always enjoy, kind of like we mentioned today, the one-on-one connection with people, just to see if, coaching or some leadership development might be helpful to them. So all that said, nelsonexecutivecoaching.com, the contact form, just send me a note. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
Yeah. And if there's anything else that you want to share with my listeners.
I would just emphasize, something you said, Farnia, about, listening to those rumblings and those reflections that happen throughout your life. Um, just giving those a voice and staying curious about them, since we're talking about staying curious.
Yeah.
Um, I think the more you hold them close to yourself, while, of course, we have to do all the other things of work and life and leadership, that would just be my final encouragement. Listen to those things because, frankly, I'm living proof that those things matter, and
Yeah.
that even if you cheat death, by my count in my life, at least 3 times in the last 8 years, as long as you're alive, you have everything you need to execute and to do those things that are most important to you.
You have everything you need to win. You have everything you need.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andy. It has been a pleasure, as I knew it
Mm,
would, of speaking with you today. Thank you for
mm.
making the time.
Okay, thank you so much, Farnia. So, all that said, nelsonexecutivecoaching.com, the contact form, just send me a note. I'd be happy to have a conversation.
The Lenserf Group is proud to be named a 2025 Inc. Power Partner. Consult, coach, or train your teams with us. lenserfgroup.com or follow us on LinkedIn, the Lenserf Group.